I was doing a consultation yesterday on my World Builders Mastermind with one of our elite brothers, and he was an insurance agent who was talking about how the postcards that he's been mailing for a number of years to different niches, fine dining restaurants, contractors, all of a sudden in the last year and a half, 2 years, the response to these mailings, the return on investment has plummeted. It's in the toilet. It went from 4-1 or 8-1, depending upon the mailing, to a losing return on investment. And he doesn't understand why the phone wasn't ringing anymore, why there were no more leads, because they're the same postcard mailed to the same list. Accurate thinking would lead you to believe that you're going to get the same handful of leads. You're going to get the same 4% response, 2% response, 1% response, the odd home run 5% response. So when he's mailing out 500 postcards a week, you expect a certain percentage of phone calls or quotes, opportunities and leads. And all of a sudden, over the last 2 years, this has all changed. So I was thinking about it for a few minutes, and then I realized what was happening. It wasn't about the postcard. It wasn't about the copy. It wasn't that the postcard had gone stale. It wasn't even about the list, although it could be about the list, but there's only one way to find out whether it is about the list, whether some of those businesses have gone out of business, whether those addresses are accurate anymore. But the bottom line, it reminded me, and I told him this at the end when I did my review, he has a deliverability problem. He has a deliverability problem. He doesn't have a postcard problem. He doesn't have a copywriting problem. He doesn't have a headline problem. He doesn't have a call to action problem. He doesn't have a niche problem. He doesn't even have a list problem, I don't believe, and we're going to find out very soon. But I believe he has a deliverability problem. Just like email, his postcards are not getting delivered. So he has a Seinfeld-Newman postal worker problem. And it's a problem that I've dealt with for the last 20 years as an entrepreneur who has mailed millions and millions of direct mail pieces. I built my fortune in the insurance business by starting mailing 100 flyers, then 200 flyers a month, up to 500 flyers a month for my insurance agency, then 1,000 flyers per month, then I got up to 2,000 flyers. And 17 years later, when I sold the company 5 years ago, we were mailing 140,000 flyers, paper and ink flyers per month. From 100 flyers to 140,000 flyers a month. So well over 1.5 million pieces per year. I was a proud and unabashed tree killer. I have a badass footprint. Lots of timber, lots of tree killing in my marketing career. So when I thought about how he's not getting a response anymore, my intuition told me his postcards are not getting delivered. What led me to believe that? Well, first of all, he's sending them bulk mail. The little indicia up in the corner, instead of a live stamp, he's sending them bulk rate. It's cheaper. And we all did it. I sent my 140,000 flyers by what was called in Canada unaddressed ad mail, which means no stamp. It means basically bulk. You can send them to any home or business you want. You just have to, draw a circle around what area you want to get them: homes, businesses, apartments. And when I was at the peak in the insurance business, anybody within 150 miles of my desk was getting a monthly flyer. 150. I could draw a circle around my desk, and anybody that lived within 150 miles received 12, count them, 12 glorious goldenrod flyers per year, one per month. So this elite brother has a deliverability problem because the unionized postal workers, not all of them, but most of them, they don't give a shit. In fact, it's common now for dumpsters, for people to find dumpsters full of mail. And most of it's bulk mail, most of it's unaddressed ad mail that cannot be tracked. See, when you put a live stamp on something, then you can track it. In other words, they're called nixies. If there's a problem with an address, or an address is no good anymore, or a business isn't there anymore, the postcard or the letter is returned to you. That's part of the power of a first-class stamp. If I send something with a stamp and it doesn't get delivered, it gets returned to me. Then Leanne can adjust and say, okay, that address is no longer any good, and we can clean our list. When you don't send by first-class mail, you never know if your stuff is delivered. You have no clue if your flyers, your postcards, your newsletters, any of your mail is getting delivered or not. So that's a big deal. You're flying blind without a cane. So I'm a first-class mail guy. I now only mail by first-class postage. It's the best investment because it guarantees deliverability. I can't sell anything if people don't get my letters. I can't sell anything if they don't get my telegrams and my newsletters. So in this case, he has a deliverability issue. See, bulk rate was okay 15 years ago. But by the day, especially during the pandemic, things got to the point where the unionized postal worker is just mailing it in. They're just showing up, and when they got that heavy sack over their shoulder and it's full of what they call junk mail. By the way, it's not junk mail, it's commercial mail. It's what pays their fucking salary. Junk mail. You can call it junk mail, your sister-in-law can call it junk mail, but I call it commercial mail. Those flyers that you see in there, that so-called junk mail, that advertising mail, that's the mail that keeps first-class postage affordable. That's the mail that pays for their overpriced salaries. That's what pays for the bureaucracy of the US postal system, the Canadian postal system. That's what pays, that so-called junk mail, commercial mail. But I remember I had a girl who handled the whole thing, and she would take our flyers, so 140,000 a month, you divide that by 4. I need my daughter Emery to do that math now. Strong men tremble when I do math. So she would take a carload or a truckload of those flyers from the printers. We handled everything because I didn't trust the postal guys to do anything correctly. it wasn't, we were on opposite sides of the spectrum. I wanted my stuff mailed and they didn't want to do any work. So the secret was accountability and handling as much of the process as we could ourselves. So I hired an independent contractor. She was a girl I knew, and I got her to handle everything. She would go to the local printer. I love printing locally. Finding a good printer is like finding anything else in business. Like it's critical. So we're blessed with a great printer today. In the insurance business, I had this little print shop, and they would print 140,000 flyers a month. They would print 9,000 newsletters. They would print our niche postcards. They loved it, right? And I could always depend on them to meet deadlines. So then Shannon, my contractor, would head over. Her dad, who was retired, would help her, and they would load these flyers every week, tens of thousands, into a truck. There's probably 35,000 of them each week, and they would take them to that specific area post office. So they'd take them to that city post office that week. Then they'd take them to that city that week, or they'd take them to those towns that week. And it was a 4-week delivery cycle, 35,000 flyers every week to a different area, 150 to 200 miles around our agency. But we made sure we delivered them. Then Shannon worked on creating good relationships with each post office, which was really difficult because, again, anything unionized ends up toxic and poison. We work too hard, nobody respects us, we don't make enough money, nobody has any idea. It's just whining, crying, and complaining. And the only way, like if you treat those people with disrespect, or you lose your cool, or you lose your temper, I learned the hard way that doesn't work. You can get more done with a unionized postal worker with honey than you can with vinegar. So Shannon would treat these guys with great respect. She always showed tons of appreciation, and she really went out of her way to forge a positive relationship with them. And that was something that made all the difference with deliverability. Because remember, those 140,000 flyers, because I was sending them unaddressed bulk mail, those guys can take those flyers and they can throw them in a dumpster. And you see them discovered all the time in the news. You'll see 40,000 pieces of mail were discovered in a dumpster in New Jersey. 100,000 pieces of mail were discovered in a dumpster in Los Angeles. It happens all the time. That's the postal worker who's got the heavy sack, who's like, damn it, I'm not gonna do all this junk mail. And they toss it, they pitch it. They found mail in the river, they found warehouses. They found at one time, this is going back about 10 years, they found a postal worker who actually had one of those storage containers rented, and the thing was full from head to toe, from ceiling to floor, with mail, with bulk mail, junk mail, advertising mail. He literally would take his sack of mail each day, anything that didn't have a first class stamp on it or anything that didn't look important, and he would pitch it in the container. And they opened up this storage unit, and here was tens of thousands of pieces of mail that were never delivered. So those business owners were like, the list is no good, my copy's no good, my postcard was no good, that ad bombed. When the reality is, a lot like email, it never got delivered, therefore it never got read, therefore it never had a chance to sell. It never got delivered, it never got read, and it never got a chance to sell. Talk about anti-business unionized thinking. Those guys that pitch mail, they couldn't run a business in their best nightmare. They just takers. And it's interesting because how do you fix this problem? That's the thing. So we fixed the problem by delivering our own mail as far as we could personally. So Shannon would take it to that exact post office. Because you can pay for it to be moved from the local post office to all the different ones. We never used that service. It was better for me to pay Shannon and her dad to drive that truck to 11 different post offices and deliver 11 different sacks of it than it was to get the post offices to transfer it. And the reason again for that is that personal connection. It's the only chance we had of getting it delivered. And because she had a personal relationship with these people in the post office, most of our mail got delivered. Then it's up to the postal guy, Posty, right? He's got the sack over his shoulder. She's got the sack over her shoulder. Once again, it's up to them whether, they're going up in an apartment building, they're walking through a neighborhood, they're handing out mail, and they got this so-called junk mail, my flyers. Well, they can put that in the mailbox, or they can say, fuck it. I'm not putting it in the mailbox. But most of our postal workers were pretty good because they didn't have anywhere to stash it. In a small community, they're not going to throw it in a dumpster. In a small community, they're not going to pitch it in the river. In a small community, they're not going to put it in a storage container. So just the fact, and this is why accountability is on a pillar for me. Accountability is on a pillar for me. When it comes to raising a child, accountability is number one. When it comes to my own personal performance in life, accountability is number one. My masterminds are about accountability. World building is about accountability. But by having Shannon drive these there and have a relationship, it's also enforcing accountability, at least as much as we could with these unionized workers. At least they know that we're watching. And behind her back, even though, I think they liked her, behind her back, they're just sniveling, right? That bitch, what's she doing here? Why, who does she think she is? Don't think about it for a second. But none of that matters. It's just her being there and checking things and coming back the next week and asking questions. She's a thorn in their side, but she's also holding them accountable, good morning, which is a huge thing, as much as she can. So the late, great Gary Halbert, the Prince of Print, one of the greatest copywriters in history, always said, don't bother sending anything that's not first-class mail. If it doesn't have a stamp on it, don't bother. It's not going to get delivered, or if it does get delivered, it'll be so sporadic you won't know. He also talked about the importance of delivering the mail yourself, doing the paperwork, having your assistant deliver the mail there yourself, and having the postal workers see you come in, know that you're tracking, know that you're doing things to track and to keep them accountable is everything. So it was interesting that we did that. And we had complaints. We would post complaints, but none of that stuff goes anywhere, right? So we did have to complain several times about Canada Post, and you have to go through this huge bureaucracy, and they're just laughing, right? We would complain about the postal carrier maybe once or twice. We'd complain about unprofessional service, but they don't care. It's just one big shell game, right? They're like, whatever. So for us, honey was better, than vinegar. It was much better to treat them with respect, hold them accountable, and get our mail delivered. Control the controllable, right? Control the controllable. So in George's case, in our mastermind, he's got to switch from bulk mail, which is cheap. Free is the new expensive, right? Cheap is the new expensive. And he's got to start putting first class stamps on these postcards. But I told another story, which is a real eye opener. And Mark, Andre, and Leanne know this story very well. So I mail telegrams. If you're a member of my newsletter program, badassletter.com, it's my monthly world building newsletter, badassletter.com. My diamond members who upgrade, they receive a telegram from me every week. 52 telegrams a year, 52x. And, you know, nobody sends telegrams anymore. I didn't really know what a telegram was. I remember my grandparents used to receive telegrams. So it's a marketing idea, right? It cuts through the clutter. It makes you different, makes you unique. My guys love it. And I write these telegrams every week about one of my advanced marketing ideas. It's my best advertising and marketing ideas on a card. So Leanne would get these complaints, and we've been doing this now for a year. And she would get complaints from our diamond members. They'd say, I never received your telegrams. I don't receive your telegrams. Guys in the States, guys in Canada, like never. They're like, and Leanne's like, well, I put a first class stamp on it. I labeled it and I sent it out, self-mailer. But here's the thing that's changed in the last handful of years. Even self-mailers, and what's a self-mailer? A self-mailer is a piece of mail without an envelope. That's a postcard, that's a flyer, that's a telegram that we send, and it has a stamp on it, but it does not have an envelope. It's not hand addressed. It still looks like commercial, or as they would call it, junk mail. So it's still, to the postie, it still looks like junk mail. And some of those guys are not smart enough to even notice that there's a stamp on it. They just see it and think it's junk. So I thought about it for a while, and I said to Leanne, I said, it's not getting delivered. Those guys are pitching those. They're pitching them. They're getting, you know, that telegram isn't getting to Florida. It isn't getting to Texas. It isn't getting to Tennessee. You know, it isn't getting to Saskatchewan. So we changed up. About 2 months ago, I said, Leanne, start putting the telegram, it's like a postcard. I said, start inserting it in a color envelope, a nice color envelope, bright yellow, bright orange, whatever. I said, put a personal return address in the top left-hand corner. I call this A pile mail. Gary Halbert used to call mail arrives A pile, B pile, and C pile. A pile is the stuff with first class postage that gets opened. FedEx, priority, first class postage. So Leanne starts hand addressing these, that's the secret, hand addressing in black Sharpie or blue Sharpie. She puts their name, address, big circle around it, puts a couple of live stamps up in the right hand corner, and she puts my return address sticker with the Canadian flag up in the left hand. So this is a piece of mail that looks important. It looks very personable. It looks personable. It looks like a wedding invitation. It looks like a real live person has sent it, which they have, me, and it's going to get delivered. Because postie is like, I'm not pitching this because this is somebody that is tracking. This is somebody this is important, right? This isn't junk mail. Well, here's the test results. Over the last 2 months, I don't think Leanne's had one of our brothers say that they didn't receive their telegram. Not one. And if they did, it's a simple mistake. So by putting it in an envelope with a real live stamp and hand addressing it, not some computer label, and the return address has to be from a person, never a corporation, never, McLean Insurance, ever. it was always from Michael McLean, a person. I'm in the personality business. I'm not some stale and dull corporation, faceless corporation. And I'm happy to report that we've tricked Posty into delivering our telegrams. Amazing. I pay $1 in postage, and Posty actually delivers the telegrams as he's paid to do. So it's about tricking Posty. It's about tricking Posty. So control the controllables. I can bitch and whine and complain all I want about the postal system, okay, which I'm doing here right now. But at the end of the day, Michael McLean's responsible for making this work, controlling the controllables. So I don't spend much time. I've never told this story, but I'm telling it now as a lesson for you to understand that these are the things that you have to do. Good morning. These are the things that you have to do if you're going to be in the mail business, if you're going to be in the marketing business. Don't whine and complain and make excuses about the post office. Find ways to get your stuff delivered. Take accountability for yourself, which is what we've done. And I do it by investing. I don't waste my money on bulk mail anymore. I don't waste my money without sending an envelope. So we do the same thing now for our newsletters. We send them in, we're sending them in these, you can subscribe at badassletter.com. It's a physical newsletter that I send to your doorstep once a month, the Michael McLean letter. So we've been sending these in these bright, shiny red. Good morning. These bright, shiny red envelopes. They're called glamour envelopes, glamour mailers. You can Google that. They're gold, they're red, they help you show up like nobody else. So we were mailing my newsletters every month in these glamour red envelopes with a bunch of first class stamps. Like, use more than one, right? Like, piece it together, put like 4 stamps on there if it's like $5. And big imprinted labels. She didn't hand address these. And then Leanne put my Canadian flag, pro-Canada guy, right? Pro-America guy. Stick it in their face. It's another thing. They probably want to pitch it when they see that, because they hate America and they hate Canada and they hate all of it. But because it's from a person, they got to deliver it. So not all postal workers, just most of them. So she mailed these 100% delivery on the glamour envelopes, because what? It's in an envelope. It looks like it's official mail. It's got first class postage. And you know what? If it's not delivered, that's the thing about stamps, guys. If it's not delivered, we get it back. So Leanne will get 2 or 3 of these back a month out of hundreds and hundreds. And she'll be able to say, hey, I got this newsletter back. Contact the person, say, what's up with your address? And they'll say, oh, I'm at a different location, whatever. It allows you to clean your list. It allows you to fix the nixies. Nixies are bad addresses, old addresses. So you're constantly cleaning your list. I'll pay for that any day. So now we're actually changing it up, and we're mailing our newsletter, my Michael McLean letter, in these thick, clear envelopes. They're big, clear envelopes. You can see the newsletter inside. And I've done this for a number of years, where it helps with deliverability. All of a sudden, like the postal worker can see this newsletter in there. It looks official. It looks ugly, but it looks official. They can see it's from a real live person, because my newsletter's full of photos and all that kind of stuff. Big label on there, all kinds of stamps. Leanne puts like 5 stamps on there. My big return address from Michael McLean, and it'll get delivered. And if they don't get delivered, because it's first class mail, they get returned, and we can find out why they didn't get delivered. Is it a nixie? Is it a bad address? Did somebody, whatever. So clear envelopes, always changing it up. Always testing, always trying, always changing things up. So those are my war stories from the marketing mailroom. And they're gonna save you so much time and frustration and headaches because just start mailing first class and start using hand-addressed mail like Sharpie. I get the high school. Leanne has her 2 kids and her niece on an assembly line in the kitchen. Don't say you can't mail stuff. You can mail 100 letters a week. You can mail 500 pieces a month. Are you kidding me? You have kids, don't you? My daughter Emery's been sitting at the kitchen table since age 2, stuffing envelopes, spilling her breakfast on my envelopes and my mail, and that's part of growing up in an entrepreneurial home. Get your kid off their fucking phone and show them, introduce them to what a stamp and an envelope looks like, and tell them to stuff and address 100 of them and pay them per piece like I do. I pay cash per piece to these kids. They want the work. It's an assembly line. It's just boom, 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 address it. Boom, 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 address it. Boom, 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 address it. An assembly line. Child labor at Badass World headquarters. China isn't the only place that has child labor. The Badass World Builders, Leanne's running a program with child labor. It's good for them. And it's funny, I tell her, I say, I got one thing. I said, no fucking technology and no phones. When I get back and I see that assembly line, if I see a cell phone in a kid's hand, or if I see somebody texting, or if I see somebody playing, one of those kids, I'll fire their ass right on the spot. Greatest lesson I'll ever give a 14-year-old or a 16-year-old or a 20-year-old. When I'm paying you to do a job, you better do the goddamn job. I'm paying for your mentality. I'm paying for your physical work, your mental work. I'm paying for your mind. If you want to be somewhere else, you'll be somewhere else. That's why I took the phones away at my agency, took the phones away at my hockey team, take the phones away at my Mastermind event. I take them away. If you don't like it, get lost. I'm not interested in being around mental tomato can shit weasels. I'm interested in being around people that can think and work and focus. So I don't even know where I was going with that. So Leanne's got the assembly line. You need the assembly line on your kitchen table. You print 100 letters, 100 inserts. You get 100 envelopes from Business Depot, Staples, wherever. You go to the post office and you buy 100 stamps. Make them good ones too. Like you can get, without paying any more money, you can get like Elvis stamps. You can get celebrity stamps. You can get presidential stamps. You can get athlete stamps. So that makes it even better, right? We used to have all these Elvis stamps and all these different things. And it's just amazing because you don't, good morning. You don't have to pay any more, and it makes your mail stand out even more. You want to be A-pile mail, right? You want the person who's receiving it to immediately say, I need to open this right away. There's A-pile, there's B-pile, and there's C-pile. You want to be an A-pile. I just told you all the things to get in A-pile. So those are the war stories. Get your own assembly line going on the table. Start with 100 pieces a week. That should give you a result, good morning, a result of anywhere from 1 to 5 response. So anywhere from 1% to 5% is a win. So if you send out 100 pieces of mail for your business with an offer and you get 3, 4, 5 phone calls, you turn 3 or 4 of those people into clients or customers or patients, and you're winning. You are winning big time. So then you do another 100 the next week. Another 100. That's how I started. I didn't start with 140,000 flyers. I started with 100. I put them together. I drove them to the post office. I handed them to the guys, and then I hurried back to the office to get ready to answer the phones. That's how I started. 100 a week. And that's how any marketer should test. 100 a week. And then if that's working, get to 200 a week. But you can do that with the help of your kids, your grandkids, your spouse, high school kids like Leanne. She's got her 2 teenagers and her niece, and they do a great job. And she just builds the assembly line, and so we do all the newsletters now in-house. We do all the telegrams in-house. We do all of our mailings in-house. And you have control then. And because it's hand addressed, because it's in an envelope, because it's got the return thing in the corner, it's going to get delivered. So that's my rule for mailing. First class mail only, in envelopes, hand addressed, with a return. Next time you get my next time you get my newsletter, next time you get my telegram, next time you get any mail from me, make sure you check and study the envelope before you open the newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go to badassletter.com. So that's enough war stories about getting your mail delivered. You know what? It's never going to work. You're never going to be able to do direct response marketing in the mail if you're not going to invest in first class postage and envelopes to get it actually delivered. So I just handed you the keys to 100% delivery. 100% delivery. Do you know if you're the greatest email marketer in the world, you're going to have a 70 to 80% failure rate. 80% to 90% of your emails never get delivered, never get opened, never get read. No chance to win, right? 80, 90% failure rate. What I just told you is a 100% delivery rate. If it's not, you get it back. A chance for it to be opened, read, it's going to get opened, read, and now you have a chance to sell. So don't be surprised when you do get a 4% rate. Don't be surprised when you mail 100 pieces and you get 5 phone calls. Don't be surprised. Those are world-class numbers because your mail is ugly, it's personal, and it's getting opened. So it's time for another edition of the very popular Michael McLean Badass Rules. These are my rules for marketing, sales, advertising that I use in my businesses. And I wrote an entire book on it. How to Not Get Your Ass Kicked in Business and Life is a book with 25 Michael McLean rules. That's what that book is. You can get a copy of that book at nobullbook.com. Nobullbook.com. It's like $30 for the book, and you get one of these free t-shirts. But that book, How to Not Get Your Ass Kicked in Business and Life, is my 25 rules for living life and doing business on your own terms, for living a life of personal sovereignty. A lot of the rules are about money making, about marketing, about advertising, about promotions. Some stuff in there about mental toughness, getting your balls back, stuff like that. But most of it's marketing and sales. So it's my most popular writings, right? Whenever I write about a new rule, well, guess what? I only do this once or twice a year. I'm doing another newsletter this April. I'm just finishing it up on the new Michael McLean rules. So I put together 10 new Michael McLean world building badass rules. And these are principles I live by. They're maxims, whatever you want to call it, that I live by over the last 31 years in business, the last 19 years as a pro hockey coach, amateur hockey coach, husband, father. And these are rules and principles that, have allowed me to sell $155 million in products and services. I know how to sell. It's allowed me to be the number one most respected, most talked about, most referred entrepreneur in any market I was in, whether it was barbershop, insurance, hockey business, window washing business, consulting business. And these have led to more peace of mind, autonomy, and personal sovereignty than I can explain. They've allowed me to build my businesses around my life. My businesses are built around my life. I do the exact opposite of every other entrepreneur. I build my business to support my life. So these rules I'm writing about in the April newsletter, the Michael McLean letter, are about peace of mind. They're about wealth. They're about autonomy. They're about living life and doing business on your own terms. And these are the rules that help you do it. And I know you hate rules. I hate rules. We're entrepreneurs. These are rules for men that hate rules, just like my book. But rules equal freedom. Nobody even has to know that you use these principles and maxims. They're just like rules equal freedom. You can be this badass super autonomy personal sovereignty guy who's got a handful of rules that make it all work. Discipline equals freedom. Rules equal personal sovereignty. So the big Michael McLean April edition is 10 more of my badass rules, all new rules. They're not the rules that are in the book. And you can join my newsletter at badassletter.com. That way you'll get this in the mail. It'll be in one of those clear envelopes with a bunch of stamps. You'll be able to see the envelope, my return address. You'll be able to swipe and deploy all of that stuff. Study how Leanne creates the envelope. Study everything about the mailing. And then study the 10 rules inside. So badassletter.com. It's only $3.24 a day to subscribe. $3.24 a day. The hobo on the train today can take that, can make that happen. The guy with the cup in his hand down on York Street begging for money for alcohol research can do that. $3.24 a day, which is $97 a month to be part of the Brotherhood. And so much more comes. Plus, I'm going to send you one of these righteous badass t-shirts. Those are the brand new ones. That's called military font. That's called military font. You see how it's broken? That's like a military font. Because it's a military font, it's one of my favorites. Anything to do with military makes yours relentless smile. If I was commander-in-chief or prime minister or president, a first order of business for me would be peace through strength. Peace through strength. I don't care if it was the United States or Canada. I would invest billions, and I mean billions with a B, billions of dollars every year, into making us the most advanced, the most powerful, the most capable military on planet Earth. We'd never have to start up a tank. We'd never have to send a missile. We'd never have to do anything. Our soldiers could train in the gym because peace through strength. When you have massive, massive power, when people respect your power and your ability to get the job done, then peace through strength. You know, if that's how you deal with a Putin, peace through strength. He smells weakness, he makes a move. It's been all through history, through the Soviet Union and all. When you're strong, when you show neediness, when you show weakness, it attracts more aggression. It attracts more aggression. So peace through strength. I would be the commander-in-chief with the most powerful and feared military on earth. Don't fuck with us or bad things are gonna happen, and we would live in a peaceful world. At least around here we would, because yours relentless is a peaceful man, is a patient man for the most part, but I also have the ability to be impatient and not peaceful. I don't know where I was going with that, but I don't want to be prime minister. I don't want to be president. I don't want to be commander-in-chief, because politics is theater for ugly people. I'd like to do it for a day. How far could I build up the military in a day? Could I dedicate $1 trillion to the US military, to the SEALs in one day? That'd be my only thing that I put through. Michael McLean was prime minister or president for one day, and he invested $1 trillion in the US Navy SEALs. That would be my legacy. That'd be my legacy. Attack dogs on call. Attack dogs on call. I got lots of friends that are high level in the military, right? Guys that are into the SEALs and all that stuff, and they're attack dogs on call. They want the phone to ring. They're disappointed that they don't get to go, right? Because that's what they're trained for. That's what they're trained for. They're trained to be ready to go. Greatest guys on earth. Greatest guys on earth. big hearts, big balls, women, men. That's why we're free, past, present, and future, because of the sacrifices of these incredible, incredible people in our military. World wars, battles in the Middle East. You know, we don't know 99% of what goes on. But oh my God, God bless those men and women, past, present, and future, in our Canadian and American military. And boy, oh boy, that's why we have all these incredible blessings in our life. It's the reason that MJM is walking with a broken iPhone this morning in this paradise. I'm living in paradise. I'm welcome in another country for 4 months a year, 5 months a year, because of those people, because of those are real heroes. In my world, the small business owner is the hero. Guys like you are heroes, and our military are heroes. Our firefighters, our police officers, and especially our soldiers, men and women. Those are the real heroes. Those are the real heroes. So I'm doing a rules edition in April. Immigration is closing. Yes, Yours Relentless does have a walled society. Not everybody's welcome. If you want to join my newsletter Brotherhood and get one of these free t-shirts, you need to do it now. I'm going to be closing immigration in the next couple of days. So if you want to receive the April Rules edition, go to badassletter.com. I do not sell, by the way, back issues. If you miss this, you miss it. I don't sell back issues ever. So badassletter.com. If you don't want to shop online, then email Leanne. Her email's below, leanne@badassmillionaire.com. And that will, Leanne will set you up. Just put subject line righteous newsletter or rules newsletter. And you'll get that newsletter with my very popular, very controversial, very unique Michael McLean top 10 rules. Michael McLean top 10 rules. And that's it. Get mailing 100 pieces a week. Get the assembly line going at the kitchen. I call it kitchen table millions. Get your wife, get your children, get your neighborhood kids, get your grandkids, whoever involved. Make your home a seminar room. Make your home a place where you can tell the story of how you taught entrepreneurship to the children and the grandchildren, because they saw a king doing direct response mail. How do you think they're going to learn this stuff? They're going to learn how to address an envelope, how to put a stamp, how to write a sales letter. They're going to learn it all by doing it. So I call it the $1 million kitchen table, the assembly line. Get the child labor going. Pay them $1 per completed thing, whatever. Thank you cards, flyers, postcards, newsletters, whatever it is. Get the kitchen table assembly line going and share entrepreneurship with our young people. They need it. Look at that sunrise. I got another day. I opened up my eyes, which means my creator's not done with me. Another day to talk too much. I got my Champions Mastermind today. It's a highlight of my week. I get to work with the best of the best and look at that sunrise. And I had the gift of walking and talking with you, being out here in fresh air and nature, and look at my reward. Look at my reward. God is good. God is great, man. God is good. God is great. Get mailing and start using first-class postage and envelopes to get your stuff delivered. Two words that change my life, and 2 words that'll change your life. Be relentless.